Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Arizona Civics Coalition Civic Week. We are celebrating our State Civics Week this week and throughout next week. That is bookended with the National Constitution Day and National Voter Registration Day on the front end, and our own state Justice O'Connor Celebration Day on the back end. We've had this entire week some really great webinars, and today we have another really great webinar with a super amazing guest from the Arizona Clean Elections Commission, Gina Roberts, who'll be sharing a lot around voter engagement and education, which is the theme of this year's Arizona Civics Week. So I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Gina, and thank you, Gina, for being here today.
Of course. Thanks, Tara. So happy to be doing this because this week's amazing, right? To celebrate our Constitution and to celebrate being civically involved. It's just very exciting. And the National Voter Registration Day, Constitution Day, amazing. And what better way to honor all of those types of events than to learn about voting, learn about one of the very important ways that you can actually get civically engaged in your community. So I have some great information to share with you today. There's a lot of information here. So what I recommend is, keeping this with you all the way through until you cast your ballot, until even after election day, because we're going to talk about everything that you need to know so that you can not only participate, so you know how to cast your vote, so you can learn what's on your ballot, but also so you know how the process works, how elections work, how your ballot is kept secure. So everything to help prepare you for our upcoming presidential election. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. I have some slides, and let's see here. All right, so we will get started from the beginning, and here we go. So as Tara mentioned, I am with Clean Elections. So I'm the voter education director there, and Clean Elections is the state's nonpartisan voter education agency. So we were created specifically by voters through a citizens initiative to do three things. One is to provide voter education. So that's the role that I am here today in this capacity. And that's for the entire state of Arizona. So educating all of our voters, all of our citizens about how they can be involved in the political process. A next component is we offer a clean funding component for candidates who want to run for office, and then we also have enforcement over campaign finance laws. So today we're going to focus on voter education, and I just want to give you an idea of where Arizona is at today. Right now, we have about 4.1 million registered voters across the state, and we have 5 recognized political parties. We have the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, the No Labels Party, which is not the same as independence. So it's the No Labels Party, the Green Party, and then this category down here that we see that says Other, that's basically what we refer to as independent voters. It's anybody who is a registered voter that's not affiliated with one of those 5 recognized political parties. And then if you look at the percentage, you can see that the makeup of our state is about a third, a third, a third, with the 2 primary parties, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and then the independents. So you can see that, Arizona really is, diverse. And I think this is one of the reasons why you often hear about how Arizona is such an important state in national elections. So when we look at the presidency, when we look at, who controls the United States Senate, Arizona really is an important state when it comes to determining which party will be in control, and very important when it comes to electing president too. We're often referred to as a purple state. So a few key dates and deadlines as we get started here. Our general election, the presidential election, will be held on November 5th. So Tuesday, November 5th. Very important. If you want to participate, the very first step is you have to be registered to vote. So this means if you are a new voter, you need to register for the very first time, or if you have moved. A lot of people think, oh, I've moved, I've updated my information with MVD. That's great, but Motor Vehicle Division is not the voter registration rules. You have to update your voter registration record as well. So if you've moved or you've had a name change, or maybe you want to change your political affiliation, all of that needs to be done by Monday, October 7th. And then 2 days later, we get started into early voting. So early voting begins Wednesday, October 9th. And then a few other dates here to get you through the process. So if you like to vote by mail We let you know, okay, this is the last day that you can request one. We give you the date of when to mail your ballot back and the last day to vote early in person, and then of course election day. But the two key dates that I really want to point out to you again are October 7th and October 9th. And then when we get to Tuesday, November 5th, if you haven't voted yet, polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and don't forget your ID. And actually, Arizona, most people prefer to vote early. So on October 9th, all of the ballots are going to go out in the mail to the people that have requested an early ballot, and that's usually about anywhere from 80 to 90% of our state. So most people here in Arizona prefer the convenience of voting by mail. So you'll see a lot of activity. Your friends and family may be voting during that time. So it's a good opportunity to make a plan and think about, okay, where am I going to be? Am I going to be out of town? Am I going to be on vacation? October 9th is when those ballots go out. So how do you get registered to vote? What are the qualifications? Most people register to vote online. If you have an Arizona driver's license or an ID card, you can go online and you can either submit your new application if you're a first-time voter, or if you have any changes, you can do it on here as well. And to be a registered voter, you have to be a citizen of the United States. You have to be a resident of Arizona and your county at least 29 days before the election, and that's that deadline of October 7th. You have to be 18, and you have to be able to write your name or make your mark. You can't register if you've been adjudicated incompetent by a court of law or if you've been convicted of a felony. However, in Arizona, if you are a first time felon and you've paid all your restitution, if you've completed your sentencing, your civil rights are automatically restored. So you can go ahead and register to vote then. But again, that very first step is getting registered to vote. So for our college students, I have this slide in here because our students, sometimes they need a little bit of extra help. Their circumstances are a little different when it comes to where they are and how that affects voter registration. So if you're an in-state student, let's say, you grew up in, Chandler, and you decide that you're going to go to ASU and you're living on the dorms in Tempe. Do you change your voter registration? Where are you going to be registered to vote at? So you have to decide, where's your permanent residence? Am I truly a resident of Chandler and I'm just temporarily residing in my dorm in Tempe? If you are truly a resident of Chandler, then you would want to make sure that you're registered to vote in Chandler. And then you can get your ballot either mailed to you at your location in Tempe, or you can drive back to a voting location that you need to vote in person at. Or if you decide, you know what, Tempe is my permanent residence, I'm going to update my voter registration and change my address to reflect that. The reason why this matters, why it's important, is because your address determines what's on your ballot. It will say, okay, you live in this district, and here's all the candidates running in this district. So your address determines all of the elections that you're eligible to vote in. So that's very important that your voter registration reflects where you currently live as your permanent residence. Now, if you're going out of state, that's another issue. So you've you're grown up in Arizona, your family lives here, and you decide you're gonna go to Colorado for college. And you're only temporarily in Colorado. You still think of Arizona as your home. So your voter registration would still be here in Arizona, but since you're going to be out of state in Colorado, you need to have an early ballot mailed to you. That's how you're able to vote. The county will actually mail your ballot to you down to your location in Colorado. You can mail it, you can vote it and mail it back to Arizona, and that's how you cast your vote here. Or if you decide, you know what, I'm now living in Colorado permanently, you cancel your voter registration in Arizona and you re-register to vote in Colorado. The only thing that I would caution about this is your residency, where you consider your permanent residence, that may impact tuition. It could impact scholarships. So just think about that before you make any changes. But ultimately, you should only be registered to vote in one location, and it should be where you consider your permanent residence to be. So, early voting, as I mentioned, most of Arizona prefers to vote by mail. They prefer to get that ballot mailed to them and vote at their convenience. Those ballots are going to start going out to the post office in arriving in voters' mailboxes starting October 9th. And when you are voting early, what you'd get in the mail is this package. Your official ballot will be in there, instructions on how to complete that ballot, and there's also going to be a return envelope in there. That return envelope is so important because you have to sign it. In order for your ballot to count, you have to sign what's called an affidavit envelope. And that is how the county verifies you are who you are, that you are, in fact, the person who should be voting this ballot. It's your form of ID, your signature. So, very important. Don't forget to sign that early ballot. When you're done voting, you have to return it, and all early ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on election day. So your ballot has to be received back by the county by 7 p.m. on November 5th in order for it to count. You can return your ballot a couple different ways. You can mail it back, postage is prepaid. So you get it, you vote at your kitchen table, you're done. You fold your ballot back up, and you put it in the envelope, you sign it, and then you go put it in your mailbox, and your mailman takes it back to the county. That's fantastic. You're done. If you're going to mail it back, we recommend you do so at least a week before election day so that it has enough time to get to the county. Or if you say, you know what, I prefer not to mail it back, I'd rather deliver it in person, you can drop it off at any voting location in your county. Some counties have designated secure drop boxes that you can drop it off to, or you can drop it off on election day as well. And you don't have to wait in line. You can just bypass that line and go right up, and the poll worker will show you what secure bin to drop it into. And then you could also vote early in person. So if you're not going to be on town, let's say on November 5th, and you want to vote, but you really don't want to get your ballot by mail, you'd prefer to go in person, there are designated early voting locations throughout the county that you can show up to in person to vote. You can find those locations on the Clean Elections website at azcleanelections.gov. Just remember to go ahead and bring your ID with you. And then we get to election day. So you can see you have a lot of options on how to cast your ballot, which is fantastic because we know that everybody's situation is different and we really want to vote in a way that's more convenient for us. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to show up on election day, that's fantastic. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Bring your ID with you. And it's really important that you need to know where you're going. In some counties, you can go to any voting location. That's fantastic. But in other counties, they may say you have to go to this assigned location because this is the only spot that we can have your correct ballot for you. So you have to know where to go. Again, best way to figure that out is go to azcleanelections.gov, and I can show you in a few more slides on how to do that, and we'll tell you where to go vote. And then, of course, if you need any assistance, you just reach out to your county in advance. Sometimes counties have curbside voting where you can, let's say mobility is an issue, you can just pull right up and you can vote from the convenience of your vehicle. The poll workers there are trained to offer assistance. If you need, something to help you with your pen as you're, holding your pen as you're filling out your ballot, they have support tools available. And then, of course, every single voting location, whether it's early or in person, they all have accessible voting equipment available too that you are welcome to utilize if you need to. And then a couple of different other options. So let's say that you have an emergency. Let's say that you were planning to vote in person on Tuesday, November 5th, and unfortunately something happens. You end up in the hospital. You're no longer able to go to the polls. You can contact the county and they can dispatch a special election board. They're going to bring your ballot to you in the hospital. So there's ways to make sure that you can still have the right to cast your ballot. And then we also have emergency early voting too. So the early voting period ends the Friday before the election, but let's say that Saturday, all of a sudden you realize, oh, I've got a work trip, I've got to, go out of town all of a sudden. There's emergency early voting available to you as well too. So really the point that I'm getting at here is if something comes up, if something pops up in your life and you know you can no longer make it to the polls on election day, reach out to your county. They're going to do everything that they can to make sure that you can vote and cast your ballot. In addition to making sure that you can cast your ballot, the county is going to make sure that they keep your vote safe too. I know in recent years, voters have been asking more and more questions to say, hey, how is this election secure? How is it accurate? Is there integrity in our elections? Is my vote safe? And the answer is yes. Arizona, in fact, has an amazing system set up in place, and we are a model to other states when it comes to election procedures and election safety because we have layers upon layers of procedures in place and checks and balances to really ensure the accuracy, the integrity, and the correctness of the election. This includes making sure that we always have a paper trail. So we have paper ballots here in Arizona. We have a paper trail for every vote that is cast. All of the election systems, they are air gapped. So the voting machines, they are air gapped, which means they are not connected to the internet, which means somebody cannot access them and attempt to hack them through the internet. Counties can only use election equipment that is certified by the United States Election Assistance Commission, as well as the Arizona Secretary of State's office. So this means that it's going through stringent testing. It's being tested in nationally accredited labs to ensure that it is performing correctly, and it has to meet standards that have been developed by the EAC as well too. So this equipment goes through a lot of testing to ensure that it is tabulating correctly. And again, as I mentioned, we have a lot of procedures in place. This includes audits, logs. We log everything. Everything is kept accounted for. Logs galore. Chain of custody procedures. We have physical and cybersecurity measures that are put in place. So your county is doing a lot of work to make sure that your vote is safe. Those are some of the basics. Now let's talk about how do we actually truly get democracy done? How do we vote? Let's get ready for November 5th. So what's going to be on your ballot? Short answer is a lot. We have a lot to vote for on the November 5th election. It's going to be a two-card ballot in counties, and that's really important. We haven't seen a two-card ballot in a while here in Arizona, and that means that voters, you have a lot to decide on. You have a lot to educate yourselves on, and you have a lot of choices that you have to make on your upcoming ballot. So just for example, some of the things you're going to see, we'll be voting for president, our presidential electors. We have an open US Senate seat, and that's a 6-year term. So the person that you're electing into office will be there for the next 6 years. We have our congressional elections. We have 9 congressional districts in Arizona, and all of those offices are up for election. At the state level, we have the Corporation Commissioner. So the Corporation Commission is the entity that regulates our utility companies. So these are important decisions that we're making here. We of course have the state legislature. So our state legislature is responsible for, setting our budget, for adopting our laws here in the state. And then of course we have the retention of our judges and justices who will be on the ballot. So are we going to be retaining these judicial officers into their spots? And then we have our propositions. Arizona has a lot of propositions on the ballot this year. We have 13, and I'll go over those in a few minutes. But that's a lot to consider. Do we want to make these propositions into Arizona law? Do we want to codify them? And then all of our local races. We have 93 cities and towns across Arizona. So we have a lot of local offices, whether it's for mayor or council or recall elections or school board elections. There are a lot of local races and propositions at the local level too that are happening. So as I said, a lot of decisions that are going to be on your ballot. Give you an idea of that, here in Maricopa County, the average number of contests on a voter's ballot is going to be 79. 79 elections essentially for you to vote on, for you to consider. Across all ballots, there's a total of 265 contests. And it's going to be a two-card ballot. And I can't stress that enough. If there's anything that you take away from this presentation, and if there's anything we encourage you to tell your family and friends about, it's the fact that if you are, as I mentioned, most people vote early. So when you're ready to vote and you open up your mail package and at your kitchen table, there's going to be 2 official ballots in there, front and back. So don't forget to vote those, and don't forget them to put them back inside your envelope when you return them, and don't mix them up with your family members either. So very important that you pay attention. You have a 2-card ballot. And then this just talks about the order that you'll see things. So all of those local races that I mentioned, you're going to see those at the end of your ballot, along with those propositions. And then at the beginning of your ballot, you'll see president, United States senator, things like that. Lots to consider. So, of all those races that you're considering, how do you learn about them? You have to make a plan, you have to dedicate some time to this, and you have to research the candidates and the issues. And to do that, you have to find sources that you trust. This slide that I have here showcases that political spending in Arizona is going to exceed $800 million. That's almost $1 billion of political ads that Arizona voters are going and have been inundated with this election cycle. That's a lot. It's a lot coming at you. So how do you know, how do I find information on these candidates that's just the facts, that's factual, that's not trying to sway my vote, anything like that? How do you find this information? So we have some great resources for you here at Clean Elections. The first thing that we have is our voter education guide. It's actually arriving in households now. We send it to every household across the state of Arizona that has a registered voter in it. And in this guide, you're going to see some great information in the beginning that has all those key dates and deadlines. It tells you how to register to vote, tells you the ID that's acceptable at the polling locations. It gives you a description of the offices that are up for election. And then we have candidate statements for the candidates running for CorpCom and the state legislature. You'll be able to see their picture, their website address, their biography, and their statements. So it's a great resource that's coming directly to you in your mailbox. The other thing we have are our debates. We have sponsored debates this entire election cycle, so for the primary and the general election, and we are offering the candidates a chance to come on stage and to debate the issues that we've heard from you, from Arizona voters, that are important to them. So I recommend you check out our debates page on our website. That way you can see these candidates in action. So again, kitchen table, you've got your ballot, you see the names on there. How do I know who to vote for? You can flip open your voter guide that you received in the mail too, or you can pull up on your laptop, on your phone, or even on your TV. You can pull up our debates and you can learn more about those candidates. So, one of the things that I had mentioned early on is at our website, azcleanelections.gov, we can help you find your voting location, but also more. So, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Again, this is something that if you're walking away from this presentation, what should you take with you? And that is this voter dashboard, because it's really simple to use and we're going to give you everything that you need to know to cast your ballot. This is what our website looks like, our homepage, that pink area, your voter dashboard. You're going to click on that. And then you're going to enter in your address. Once you do that, we're going to tell you all sorts of great stuff. We're going to tell you, here's all the districts that you live in. Here's your congressional district, your legislative district, your county, and your city. We're going to tell you those key dates and deadlines. We're going to show here's the nearest voting location for you to vote early. We're updating our information right now as we speak. So if you were to go on there by next week, you should be able to see, okay, here's all of those voting locations. And again, early voting starts October 9th. So we'll have all of this information up there for you. But again, we're going to show you address. Here's a Google map from it. It's going to say it's 1 mile away from your residence. Very easy to utilize. We're going to show you all of those propositions that are going to be on your ballot at the state level. So you can see, okay, generally, here's what they are. And then I want to read everything about it. You just click that link. We have them all listed here in our dashboard. And then we have the candidates. So you can see all of the candidates that are running at the federal, state, and county level on our website. You see their picture. You just go ahead and click on their tile, and we're going to give you their information, their website, their biography. If they've submitted a candidate statement, we'll have all of that information available to you. And then if you need to verify your voter registration, you'll be able to do that as well. So let's talk about those propositions. 13, that's a lot at the state level. We typically don't see that many. So that's going to take up a lot of space on your ballot, which is why we have that 2-card ballot. 13 propositions just at the state level. You will likely have more for your local cities and towns too. So I've got them listed here. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can see that they range from primary elections to initiatives and referenda to powers of the governor with emergency orders. You can see we have information here relating to the judicial department and how judges and justices are retained. We have something that's some of the ballot measures that have probably been covered the most in the news will be regarding abortion. So there's the Abortion Act on here. We have the ballot measure that's related to our primary elections and the Make Elections Fair Act. We have measures on here relating to the border. So there was a referral from the legislature, HCR 2060, and that's related to harms at an unsecured border. So you can see there's a lot of items on here for Arizona voters to consider. So when you're voting on these propositions, you're deciding, are we going to turn these measures into law? Is this going to be Arizona law that the voters are approving? If you vote and they pass and they become law, that's something that you took part in. So again, everything that you see on your ballot, you have the opportunity to really shape the future of your community and the state by making your choices. So how do you learn more about these? In your mailbox, you should also be receiving a publicity pamphlet that's coming from the Arizona Secretary of State's office. That's the cover. It's going to look like that. It's going to every household with a registered voter, and it's going to have all of the information regarding all of these 13 ballots in there. That way you can read up on it. In addition to our website, to the voter guide, to the debates, to the secretary's publicity pamphlet, we have a lot of other information on our website as well, just to help you be civically engaged, right? I know a lot of everything I just talked about was voting, but remember, this is Civics Week, and civic engagement is more than just voting. It's also about, engaging in your community, volunteering, attending city council meetings, things like that. So we've got a lot of information on our website just to help you learn about government as a whole and how you can get involved. For example, one of the tiles here, it says college students react to the 26th Amendment. And those are some videos that we have on our website that showcase ASU students talking about the 26th Amendment, which was, if anybody happens to know what that is, it's when we lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. And it just, it helps to inspire our younger voters. Wow, this is what happened, and this is, maybe I should cast a ballot, this election, even though it might seem like a lot of work because there's a lot of things on there that I have to educate myself on. But just knowing our history and how we got here, it's a great way to celebrate your right to vote. Some of the other things that we have to help people get civically engaged for our teachers, for our parents who homeschool, we have a great curriculum on our website at Clean Elections, and it's really geared towards our 4th through 12th graders. And it meets state standards, and it's a wonderful opportunity to help introduce and educate our future voters and our future candidates about civics and voting. So it's a great opportunity to have our teachers utilize this resource, especially in a presidential election year, because we know our students are just as engaged and excited about this as adults are, right? It's exciting. And another way that we excite and engage our students is through Captain Activate. He is our hero here at Clean Elections. One of our staff members, who is a published comic book author, he created this civic engagement comic book. And the reason why we did this is because we know that we need to connect again with our future voters and our future candidates at an early age to really instill that passion for civics and wanting to contribute to your community, to educate them about this is how government is meant to work for you. These are the different branches of government that we have. These are the checks and balances in place. You can run for office when you get older, if you want to give back, and make sure you vote. This is how, and this is why it's so important, and this is what happens if you don't. And so we were able to really create this storytelling to appeal to our, again, next generation of voters. And it also encourages them to read too. So it's a win-win situation here, and we've seen great feedback from our students and our teachers in our schools so far. And we can also even send out Captain Activate to schools too. So if you're a teacher and you want to see a mascot come out, it's a great opportunity for your kids. So going back to the voting process, what happens on election night? So I've walked you through kind of the basics, how you get registered to vote, your options for voting, whether it's voting early or voting in person, what's going to be on your ballot, how to learn about those issues. And it's November 5th. You've cast your ballot. Fantastic. Polls close at 7 p.m. Anybody in line can vote by 7. If you're in line by 7, you can vote, even if you have to wait, which hopefully you don't have to wait very long. What happens next? So, November 5th at 8 p.m., we will start seeing results come through. This means that all of those early ballots that have been turned in so far, the counties processed those, they've tabulated them, and at 8 p.m., they're going to start to release those results. We will also see all of the voting locations on election day come in, and those results come through as well too. But it's not final that night. There are a lot more things that still need to occur, and we'll still see results coming in. So if you go to bed on November 5th on election night and, candidate A is in the lead, and you wake up the next morning and candidate B is now in the lead, that happens. That's okay, because counties are still tabulating. Every eligible ballot that is cast will get counted in that election, and it takes time to do that. A couple of things that can impact how quickly counties can tabulate. There's federal law that impacts our provisional ballot process. Voters have time after November 5th. They may need to come back and show ID. They may need to talk to the county and say, yes, that really was my signature on my ballot, that you were verifying my identity on. There are things that they have to do that voters still have to do after election night to let the county know, yes, in fact, they did vote and we are going to count your ballot. And then all of those checks and balances that I talked about earlier, those layers upon layers of security to ensure your vote is accurate, protected, and safe. The counties are performing those functions after election night as well too. Those include doing post election day logic and accuracy testing. They're going to check those machines and they're going to run ballots through them and do a test on them to make sure they're still counting accurately, that they weren't manipulated or changed in any way, that the programming wasn't changed. They're going to do a random hand count. The political parties are going to come in, they're going to pull random batches of ballots and they're going to do a hand count on those to make sure that their hand count matches up with what the machines are counting too. So lots of things that need to be done after election night, all to make sure that your ballot is secure and that your votes were tabulated accurately. So we'll see, the media might start to call races and say, okay, we know that this candidate won in Arizona, and some of our local races, they might try to say, okay, we're calling it here. That's just the media. It's what they do. They try to look at the math. They try to make those, predictions and analyze the math and determine, okay, based on turnout, this is, we don't think this person can come ahead. But those are media predictions. They are not final official results. So again, I just want to let voters know the results and the leads can change all the way up until the counties canvass the election. Once they canvass, the counties will come together in a public meeting, the Board of Supervisors, and they will officially adopt the results of the election. That's when we know it's final, and that's when we know for sure who has won the election. A few other things that I wanted to share because we're voting for president this year. We often get a lot of questions from voters about what is the Electoral College? What does that mean? Because when you get your ballot, you're not going to just see the presidential and vice presidential candidate names on there. You're going to see 11 other names with each of those presidential candidates on there. And those names are the names that make up the Electoral College. So Arizona and most states have a winner take all method. And as I mentioned, those 11 names that you see on there, those are called presidential electors. So when the president has filed in Arizona to say, okay, I'm the official party nominee, put my name on your ballot, they also say, here are my 11 electors. These are the names that need to be printed on the ballot next to my name. And I'll explain what their purpose is in just a moment. So what happens is after November 5th, in December, those electors will get together and they will cast a ballot for the candidate that received the most votes on November 5th. And when they cast their vote for president, they come to, again, that's the official determination of who wins the electoral votes. So a couple of things to clarify. To win the presidency, you have to get 500. So you have to get 270 electors to win. So across the United States of America, every state and a couple of districts, we have electors, and there's a grand total of 538 of those. There are 538 electors that make up the Electoral College. To win the presidency, you have to get more than half of that, so you need 270 electors to win. Electors are allocated to each state, they are allocated to each state based off of population. So Arizona has 11 electors because we have 9 congressional districts, but we also have two US senators. So that gives us 11 electoral votes. So you'll hear on election night when the media is covering it and they'll talk about, okay, California has X number of electoral votes, or New York has this, or Maine has this, or Ohio. You'll start to see as the candidates and the results come in, they're saying, okay, these electoral votes are going to candidate A, or these electoral votes are going to candidate B, and that's based off of the popular vote, who got the most votes in that state. So whatever candidate gets the highest number of votes in Arizona, they will take all 11 of our electoral votes, and that will help them on their way to 270. So hopefully that was clear, but that's why we have the Electoral College, and that's why you'll see those names printed on your ballot too. So basically what we've talked about from the start is the general information about the November 5th election. those key dates and deadlines, how to get registered to vote, which is the very first step if you want to participate, your voting options, voting early, voting in person, voting on election day, those special election boards. And then we've talked about how do I learn about everything that is on my two-card ballot, because I have a lot of choices, and then I have to look through this November 5th presidential election, and I've got to educate myself on all of these measures. And what does it mean if I vote yes? What does it mean if I vote no on this ballot measure? A lot of things to educate yourselves on. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's worth it, right? Because we love our state of Arizona. We want to contribute to democracy. We want to have our voice heard and really have an impact on how the future of our community and our state is shaped. And by voting, that's how we do that. That's how we have that impact. We're giving through our vote. We are electing people into office to represent us, and we're giving our yay or nay on potential laws here through those ballot measures. So your vote is so important, and every vote matters. It can make a difference, especially here in Arizona, because as I mentioned at the very beginning, we are about a third, a third, and third in our makeup. So we've got, again, about a third of Democrats, a third of Republicans, and about a third independents. And our elections are very, very close. The last presidential election, the margin of votes, the difference of votes was 10,000. So out of the 4.1, 4 point something million registered voters that we've had, the candidate that won Arizona, that got the most votes in Arizona for president, it was by a difference of 10,000. That is not very large when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Our elections here are very close. Your vote matters. It's important. Take the time to educate yourself, use those resources available to you, and don't forget you have that two-card ballot. And then after you voted, don't stop there. So democracy and civic engagement does not end at the ballot box. We want you to continue to be engaged and informed. So volunteer. Contact your council members, send them a letter and say, this is what I think about what's going on in my city or my town. Go to a school board meeting. And if you have children, look at their curriculum and go talk to those school board members and say, this is, what I think my kids should be taught in school. Help others get registered to vote, host a voter registration drive. Go down to the state legislature and attend a committee hearing. Join a campaign. If you've got a candidate that you love and want to support, reach out to them. You work with your political party. Go to these events. And oh, it'd be amazing if you wanted to be a poll worker. We love our poll workers because elections cannot happen without you. Election day is really the assembly of the largest workforce in the state because the poll workers are coming together across Arizona to serve voters for a whole day to get them their ballots. So be a poll worker. It's fantastic. And then, practice civil discourse. This is so important in our society today because, as I mentioned, a lot of people they want to vote from home, and maybe you're going to do that with a family member next to you at that kitchen table. Maybe you're not sure who to vote for, and you want the opinion of your uncle or your mom or your brother, or your sister. But do it in a way that you can be open minded. So, practice that civil discourse, which really means I'm going to speak to you in a respectful manner. I'm going to be open to hearing your different opinions, and we're just going to listen to each other and share our thoughts and our beliefs, but we're going to be respectful and kind about it. So have that civil discourse, and then again, we want you to vote, right? Let's get that voter turnout way up, and let's see Arizona be a leader in the nation. And again, as you go through the rest of, the upcoming weeks and we get towards November 5th, you can refer back to this presentation. You can go to azcleanelections.gov. You're welcome to email us any questions that you have. But again, that website is really going to walk you through it. And at the end of the day, even if you decide I don't want to vote everything on that two-card ballot, that's okay. You can just vote whatever races you want to. Those votes will still count, but we still want you to participate because you matter. Your voice matters. So again, a great way, Tara, to celebrate this week. It's so exciting and energizing because, it's Arizona Civics Week and we've got this presidential election coming up. And thank you so much for having me here today to share this information. So hopefully we can get all of our Arizona voters out there to participate, to engage, and really, participate in that, and participate in democracy, get democracy done, and again, just appreciate civics and having your voice heard and how you shape our state and our community. So thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Tara.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gina, for this presentation. I really appreciate the breadth of topics that were covered from everything around just like local dates to be aware of, right? Or where you can find the information to be an informed voter, to here's how things work beyond just this election season, right? So I really appreciate that. I also really appreciate the resources for K-12 educators. I'm super excited to dive into some of those comics. I don't think that I've seen all of them in full online. So definitely that will be me as well. But those resources in terms of lesson plans and whatnot that I have seen are absolutely fabulous. And I would encourage all of our educators to look at those and think about ways that they can embed that in their classroom. So thank you again. This has been absolutely fantastic. And this will be posted on our Arizona Civic Coalition YouTube page and will be accessible, as you shared, through election season and beyond. And I really hope that Arizona turns out for this election and does so in an informed way. So thank you, Gina.
Of course. Thank you.